on, my home studio engineers. Thank you so much for checking out the Home Recording Network. And if you've been on my channel before, you might notice that today there is a different DAW behind me, and that DAW is UAD's Luna recording system, which I've basically fully switched over to. If you're new to my channel, you should know that I've been a Logic user for about the past 15 years, and I love the Logic product. I still think it's a great DAW that can be used to create amazing music at an extremely low cost. So why would I switch, right? Well, I'm gonna get into that over the course of this video, but what I wanna do here is run through a comparison between Logic and Luna. So I have written down here everything I've discovered throughout my switch over to Luna, and I think it might benefit a lot of other people out there if they're also thinking of making the switch or giving Luna a shot. Now, first off, you should know that Luna is free, but you do need an Apollo Thunderbolt interface to use it. And as you can see back there, I have two Apollo 8s right behind me. So I have been using these interfaces for a few years. Now, you don't need a big interface like the ones I have. You could get something more affordable like the Apollo Twin, and trust me, you won't regret it. Even if you don't end up using Luna, the UAD interfaces are great, and they've really been a game changer for me over the years. So let's get into this. I'm gonna speak the truth here about both DAWs, and I'm not gonna hold back. Let's talk about one of the top two reasons I thought about making the switch. Luna's API and Neve summing, their API console emulation, and tape emulation. Of course, we already know that UAD's plugins are some of the closest emulations to that analog gear that we just can't afford. In placing these plugins in the Unison slot allow us to track through these plugins with near zero latency, allowing us to get better sounding tracks than we ever could before. But now with Luna, we also get the ability to emulate analog summing and tape emulation across all our tracks. And when we add this, we get a whole other tone and vibe for our mix, adding in color and harmonics that we could never really get before Luna. And this was a major reason for me to switch over. The second reason I switched over, and the reason that I actually decided to download Luna and give it a shot, was for its warp editing. Now, of course, Logic has flex time, and if you're anything like me and you do a lot of multi-track drum editing, you know what a pain flex time can be. And I've discussed my struggle with flex time in a lot of my other videos, and even talked about workarounds for flex time. Logic's flex time is known for making our drums sound strange at points, losing audio quality, chopping off the front end of our drum transients, and so much more. I mean, flex time seriously sucks, and it's my biggest issue with Logic. But on the other hand, Luna's warp mode is awesome, and they even have their own algorithm, Razor Blade, that is specifically made to take care of the front end of your drum transients. And I have used it, and it works flawlessly. Now, something that Logic really has going for it is all the included plugins and virtual instruments. It has basically everything you need to make music, and that is great. Now, since I mainly work with live instruments, I don't use a ton of MIDI nowadays, although over the years, I think I've probably been through almost every sound in Logic. Now, Luna does have a few virtual instruments and plugins that it comes with, but it does not meet the quantity that Logic has. With Luna, you do have to pay for a lot of the UAD extras, but I think it's safe to say here that you get what you pay for with Logic. The Logic drummer is okay, but it doesn't really compare to other software that's out there like Superior Drummer or Get Good Drums. Some of the Logic virtual instruments are cool, but again, they don't really meet the quality of some of the third-party VSTs. Again, Logic is great because it just comes with so much, basically everything you need to get going, but you really get what you pay for. Now, let's talk about sample rate for a minute. Luna is sample rate agnostic, which I believe is the first DAW to do this. What does this mean? This means that you can import audio files of all sample rates and Luna does not care. It also means that you can record at something like 96K, so you can have the highest quality audio files. Switch down to something like 41K while you're mixing, so your computer can handle the session. And then you can go right back to 96K when it's time to bounce. And Luna retains all these audio files for us in the background. Luna also has no buffer size that you can set. Basically, Luna knows whether you're recording or mixing and adjusts accordingly. Luna also has its ARM mode, or accelerated real-time monitoring, which allows you to record with near zero latency. But let's talk about that for a second. In order to use ARM mode, you can only have UAD plugins engaged on the track. And when ARM is turned off, the latency is just horrendous. So if I want to track some guitar through a third-party amp sim like the Amplitude product or the Slate Overloud product, it's a no-go. On the flip side, doing this in Logic has never been an issue for me. I've always just turned on low latency mode with a buffer size of 128 and I'm good to go. There is no audible latency. So props to Logic for this, and it's a good thing I do most of my guitar tracking through a Kemper now instead of using software amp sims. Of course, in Luna, you can always monitor through the UAD amp sims while tracking, and then switch the amp sims out to the plugin of your choosing afterwards. But of course, this means you will have had to purchase the UAD amp sims ahead of time. A couple of other things that it might be helpful for you to know if you're coming from Logic is that Luna does not have a built-in tuner like Logic does. You also can't customize key commands in Luna, which would have been very helpful for me when I was transitioning. And you also can't change the tone of the click track in Luna, which was a feature I loved in Logic. Something else that Luna doesn't have quite yet is an undo history, which I'm sure they're working very hard on. So you can undo by hitting Command Z, and you can go back really far in time, but you can't see exactly what you're undoing in writing. I never really went into the undo history in Logic, but it was still a really helpful feature to have. It's also worth noting that in Luna, you cannot use mono to stereo plugins on a mono track like you can in Logic. But in Luna, you can get around this by outputting your mono track to a stereo bus and then putting your stereo plugins on that bus. Now, the ability to bounce tracks in place in Logic was killer and pretty easy to do. In Luna, there is no bounce in place function as of yet, but you can export your tracks and then bring them back into Luna if you're trying to print plugins on tracks or something like that. One feature that I really like about Luna is that you can quickly combine two mono tracks into a stereo track, which is something that I do a lot with hard pan guitars because I would rather work with one stereo track than two mono tracks, so I'm not putting plugins on two tracks. You can also split a stereo track into two mono tracks really quickly in Luna, which is a nice feature to have as well. Something else that's cool about Luna is that there is no save button. Luna is always saving, no more hitting Command S to save, and no more, losing information if your project crashes. Luna does, however, allow you to save versions and bookmarks so you can still keep your project organized as you move forward. Luna's clip gain feature is super quick and easy to use and makes gain staging a breeze. In Logic, you have to go up into the regions menu and type in a number to either, increase or decrease the audio file gain. But in Luna, it's a lot like Pro Tools. It's super simple. All you have to do is grab the fader on the audio file itself, and you can increase or decrease your clip gain. Being able to zoom in on the waveforms of your audio files really quickly is also a great feature that Luna has if you're working with low level content or you're trying to do some tight editing. Just hit Command Option in the bracket keys to zoom in and out. Luna's soloing does not seem to be as smart as Logic's, as I ran into some issues soloing buses with sends from other buses. And if you want to check out the video on that, I will leave a link right up here. Something else that might be a drawback for Luna is that you can only put a max of 8 plugins on a track. We should be able to get things done with 8 or less plugins on our tracks, but I know for a fact that I have had more than 8 on some Logic tracks in the past, and I think that maybe Logic maxes out at 15, but I've never actually investigated that. Now let's talk about take folders in Logic, which was an awesome feature and super quick to use when comping takes. The ability for me to track multiple drum takes right on top of each other in Logic and switch back and forth between the takes was seamless. The only downside to this was that I would have to flatten and merge the takes by the end if I wanted to start drum editing. In Luna, we have takes and versions which need to be manually comped together. At first, I was very upset about this and thought I may not switch over. But after getting used to this new workflow, I am loving it and it's super easy to do. It just took some getting used to. And even better, I always have all my original takes and versions to go back to. No more committing takes and second guessing myself. Something that is really a time saver in Luna is searching for plugins. In Logic, I would have to search through that giant list of plugins, and if you have a lot of third-party plugins, you know what a pain and a time waster this was. In Luna, you just have to start typing the name of your plugin and there it is. Something else that's nice about Luna is the organization aspect. If you're like me, you like your project to be set up nice visually and kept organized with all your colors. In Logic, it's easy to color the WAV files themselves, but if you want the header and everything to match, they made that process take far too long, and you would have to actually go into the header settings to do this. Luna is super simple and knows that if you want a track to be read, you want everything in that track to be read, including the header. It's the simple things, you know? Now, you might ask, why would I switch and what DAW do I think is better? Well, I can only speak for myself here and give you my own opinion on these DAWs. I will say they are both great at what they do. But when you get to a certain point and you've been doing this for as long as I have, it becomes all about workflow and the sound of the mix. And editing, tone, and just the overall vibe of the mix are all a part of this. Luna has won me over with its layout, editing features, and analog emulation. Now, I really think Logic wins when it comes to creating things quickly, using MIDI instruments, and all the included plugins are really a great way to learn this stuff. But I really don't think Luna is far behind. And for me, I really don't use virtual instruments or MIDI instruments all that much. I hardly ever create music with these virtual elements, and I haven't used the Logic stock plugins to mix a client song in years. Now, I am not bad-mouthing Logic at all. I think the software is something great, and if you're completely reliant on Logic's drummer, their virtual instruments, and their plugins, I would not switch to Luna. But if you've moved past that and maybe you've invested some money in third-party plugins and instruments, Luna is amazing for tracking, editing, and mixing, and I'm really excited to see what UAD is going to do next. For now, I think it's safe to say that I'm not going to completely abandon Logic. I'm still going to keep it and probably use it for specific things. But going forward, the bulk of my work is going to be done in Luna. Now, I hope this video was helpful to someone out there who is thinking about maybe checking out Luna or switching over. If it was, make sure to give me a like and subscribe. It would really help me out. And if you have any other questions on this subject, be sure to hit me up. or leave a comment. That's it for today. Happy mixing, guys. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to download your free Ultimate Home Studio Mix Guide with your go-to EQ and compression settings for all your tracks, and also be sure to register for my free online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can learn how to make radio quality music from your home without breaking the bank.